Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Hoops with Noops. I, of course, am Alex Noops Christensen, brought to you by FTN Bets here. Again, every Monday and Friday in video, and then Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, you can also catch my written preview. Again, that's on FTN Bets, and if you follow me on Twitter there, you can see my handle at _Noops. I'll tweet out all that stuff, as well as a bunch of other things. Always talking NBA, even a little first touchdown scorer bets. All sorts of fun in the FTN group here. Again, make sure that you're in the FTN Bets Discord channel. There's a couple plays that, from time to time I don't have by the time I do this or write my article, and they get in there. Also, sometimes you'll get some of these plays a little bit earlier. Occasionally, there's some better numbers early in the day or the night before. So be sure to check all that out. If you haven't already signed up, they're doing some Thanksgiving sales at FTN. Again, a ton of great content, tools, data, everything you could possibly want as a bettor, as a fantasy player, everything like that. And again, if you're watching this and the Thanksgiving special is over, there's a discount code there in the bottom on the banner. Check that out. Again, it's really great. So hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. I love it. It's my absolute favorite holiday. I show up, set the table, peel some potatoes, and then it's football and food, for 6-8 hours, as long as I can really stand it. So it's a great holiday. I hope everybody enjoyed their leftovers today. But NBA basketball is back, and we're in the in-season tournament. If you caught Hoops with Noops yesterday in its written form, you got a great update of how every team is doing in terms of its group, a couple bets to win groups, to win the championship, and things like that. So be sure to check that out. We'll touch on a little bit of that here, but a lot bigger deep dive. Again, posted that on FTN Bets, so you can find that in the NBA section there under NBA content. Let's get into some games tonight, though. Actually, real quick before we do, again, this is the second to last group of tournament games. We've got a bunch of games tonight, and then November 28th is the final set of games before the knockout round. So be sure when you're looking at any of these games yourself, check the in-season tournament group standings. Be sure you understand each team's situation, because motivation is really key. It's one of the most important and the hardest parts about handicapping NBA basketball, especially during the regular season. And the in-season tournament has been great in terms of kind of giving us some clarity to that. It seems to be that teams are really focused on this. A lot of guys, I thought Tyrese Halliburton made a comment the other day that he has, quote, never won anything. I believe he's never won a state championship. He didn't win a title in college. So, this is his chance to win something. And winning is important. These guys are just uber competitors, borderlining on psychopaths. Some of them, is you watch how hard they play these games. So get focused on the motivation. The in-season tournament's been great. We've got a couple angles. And again, be sure to check out yesterday's written preview for some futures bets that are still open as of now. Let's get into tonight's slate. I've got 3 games here that I want to talk about. And of course, I'll touch on the others as I always do once we get to Not for Noobs. But we'll start with the Miami Heat here against the New York Knicks. This spread here is 5.5. The total low as always in a Knicks game at 212. But I think that's too low. My bet here is going to be in. We'll just pop that up right now as I talk about it, because I think that is really most of the handicap here. I guess we'll start with the in-season tournament angle. Both teams have to win this game. If the Knicks lose, they'll have 2 losses in group play, and that pretty much puts you out. If Miami loses here, they can get in if they win their next game, but it gets to be pretty difficult, especially if the Knicks win this game and then win their next game. So Miami's in tough shape here. They have to win this game, still have to win a game against Milwaukee. So I expect there to be a lot of focus and motivation from really both teams, but especially Miami, which I think is the more important team. We know with Thibodeau Knicks teams, they really give it their all every single night. The Heat really do seem to pick and choose their spots. I think tonight is one of those spots. Now, unfortunately for them, not only is Tyler Hero out, as he has been for the last couple weeks, Bam Adebayo's questionable, and he just popped up on the injury report early this morning. Generally, that means those players are out. Now, from time to time, you'll see them pop up as questionable, and then before game time, everything looks okay and they do play, but more often than not, they're out. And if Bam is out tonight, this Miami team is really going to struggle defensively and look much differently offensively. Miami's defense really hinges on the fact that Bam is not only one of the best rim protectors, but also one of the better perimeter defenders in the NBA. He can really guard anybody on the opposing team, as well as protect the rim and clean the glass. And without him, their defense is going to be worse. And offensively, they sort of change style. You'll see them run a little bit more, try to spread the floor out. I think that's Spoelstra's way of, trying to make up for the lack of defense without, trying to force guys to play better defense or put them in uncomfortable positions. If you change the flow of the game, things can be a little bit easier. So I think without Bam, we're going to see a much more open, fast off Miami offense. The Knicks, again, very slow-paced team as they always are every year, but they've gotten sucked into running with some teams and really haven't done a great job of controlling the pace. Even though they're at home tonight, they're really efficient on offense. Again, without Bam, it should be even better for them tonight. So this total of 212 looks pretty low to me. I actually had this closer to 216. So, even 213 I would have played over here tonight. So like that look quite a bit. Again, we'll go over in the Miami Heat Knicks game. 212 is the current total now. You can find that at FanDuel. Or again, if it ticks up a little bit, anything 213 minus 110 or better, it looks really nice to me. Second game, now this game will be a lot less fun from a basketball standpoint as the Chicago Bulls play the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors 5.5-point favorites here, the total at 217. There are no in-season tournament things to think about in this particular game. Both teams have 2 losses. They're out of the group. They're not going to be the East wild card here. So just kind of your normal November regular season basketball game between a team in Chicago that seems to just be on the brink of collapse. The team, as well as Zach LaVine, announced that they were ready to trade Zach LaVine somewhere else, but he's still on the team. He's still in the locker room, every single night. And anyone that has ever, broken up with a boyfriend or girlfriend while they're still living together before the lease is up, it gets weird. It gets awkward. And LaVine looks like he's playing decent basketball, but the Bulls continue to get worse and worse and worse. It's been a long time since they played good basketball. They've struggled to score. This will be the second matchup between these two teams. And it was 104-103 in overtime. That's how kind of messy it was. And, a total of 217 is looks maybe a little bit high to you, but you have to consider how Toronto has changed. And I just want to double check. I'm just looking at these numbers right now. I want to make sure I get this right. But in the first 6 games of the season, the Toronto Raptors averaged 104.5 points per game. Now, one of those games was 130 points. If you back that out, they're less than 100 points a game to start the season. However, since then, over their last 9 games, they're averaging 117 points per game. Everything seems to be clicking for an offense that looked clunky to start the year. Scotty Barnes finally looks comfortable in his role as kind of a point forward. Pascal Siakam's shot has gotten better. He finally seems to be playing better basketball, and the points are coming in bunches here. So I think that's really what's driving the total up. But I still do like an under here. Instead of the full game under, give me a Chicago Bulls team total under. As good as Toronto has been offensively, it doesn't seem to have hampered their defense at all. It's a long, athletic team. They play physically. The Chicago Bulls offense, again, Zach LaVine's questionable tonight. He might not even make this game, and if he does, it's still the Bulls offense, which shoots a lot of twos, plays very slowly, and can get sucked into an ugly physical game by a defense in Toronto, again, that's going to want to play that way. So I just really struggle to see the Bulls scoring, even 105, 104, 103, 104 points, let alone the 105.5 we have here. There's a 106.5. I think it's like minus 120, minus 125. I would prefer to sell, to play the lower number here at 105.5 for cheaper juice, but either's a fine bet here. So Bulls team total unders, they've been really nice for us this year. Raptors, again, Raptors opponents team total unders in Toronto, where this game has been nice this year. So I think we'll see an ugly Bulls performance tonight, and I'm going to bet on it. The final game here, this one is pretty interesting for me because you've got a Houston Rockets team here that is really tough, I think, for the market to assess, because if you look at their results, they're 7-1 at home, but 0-5 on the road. It's hard to figure that out, and those types of trends can extend throughout a season. Generally not to those degrees, but we have seen teams like Golden State last year was really dominant at home. But I expect that to sort of regress to average here. I don't think the Rockets are going to continue to be as great as they were at home. Part of that success was the fact that a lot of those games were consecutive games at home. They were able to play in their own stadium, comfortable at home every night in their own beds, practicing together, really getting used to the surroundings for, it was about almost 2.5 weeks to start the season. So I think that stretch is being a little overvalued here. And when you look at it, part of that stretch was a victory over the Denver Nuggets. The Rockets are 4.5-point underdogs in that game, and it was a tough spot for Denver. It's hard to say a team that had 3 days rest was in a tough spot, but that can be a place where teams are a little bit rusty. They don't necessarily play their best basketball after a couple days of kind of not pushing themselves and playing game level game speed basketball. It was also a look ahead spot. Denver had to go to Houston for one night, then head back home and play a Clippers team that really is more important to them. So I think at that point, this game is playing a little too heavily in this line. I don't understand why, you would say the Rockets are somehow 1.5 points better than they were at that point in the season. So give me the Nuggets tonight. 3 is too low. I have the 6, almost 6.5 points. It's a great matchup for Denver. Again, I don't expect them to look ahead here. Revenge is important to NBA teams. I know they're disappointed they lost that game the first time, and will definitely be coming in here remembering it. And I try not to add little things like this into my handicap, but I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talking about Alperen Şengün as the next Nikola Jokic, and I'm sure if Jokic heard any of that, he's not thrilled about it and is likely to play his best basketball. But I look up and down here, my numbers like this spread, my eyes and my matchup evaluation like this quite a bit. So give me the Nuggets here, -3. So 3 games that I have bet. I want to touch quickly on everything else. And again, not for Noops. There's a lot of games to bet. Not all of them are for me. Here's the games I'm not betting with some sort of quick thoughts on why not. The Boston Celtics at the Orlando Magic +5.5. That total is 222.5. That game is actually probably going on by the time that you're watching this. It may even be finished, but no bets for me anyway. Drew Holiday is out of this game. The Celtics do need to win it. Probably don't need to win it, but if they do, it basically locks up their in-season tournament group. But it's an odd spot here. It's a tough matchup. All my numbers came out close, so I was happy to pass on that one. Phoenix Suns at Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies 7-point underdogs. The total at 220. And I was really thrilled to bet a Phoenix Suns team total over here. The Suns can't really win their group in the in-season tournament, but have a good shot at being the wild card in the West as long as they win this game by a decent margin. So expected them to play well. The matchup looks really nice for them. They should be able to score points in bunches against Memphis tonight. But Kevin Durant popped up earlier this morning in the injury report as questionable. And if he's going to miss this game, I do expect Phoenix to win and maybe even comfortably, but it's going to be a lot tougher for them with just Devin Booker as Bradley Beal continues to miss time with the back injury. So we'll skip that game. Another game that has really big in-season tournament implications, the Sacramento Kings go to Minnesota. The Timberwolves 4.5-point favorites, the total at 229.5. This game probably is to decide the group winner for them in the in-season tournament. Both teams are 2-0 in group play. Either team that wins this will have the tiebreaker over the other should they both finish 3-1. It's a really nice spot if either one can win the game. My numbers came out here pretty close, although I do lean towards Minnesota. I think they are a better basketball team. And Sacramento's without Keegan Murray, who is a starter that's important enough to make a difference, but not important enough, or someone that has maybe the data sample size or enough to look at to really fairly say what his value is. So I think it's hard to adjust for that. And again, came out with pretty close to market here. So although I lean Minnesota, I'm going to go ahead and leave that one as well. Washington Wizards, 11.5-point underdogs in Milwaukee, the total at 245. There's a couple things that's hard for me to understand in this game. Number one, I don't know if my model does a great job with double-digit handicaps. It's hard, I think, for it to understand how easy it can be for some of these better teams to blow out some of these bad teams, because it's also hard to understand how bad some of these teams can be, especially Washington. And they're a team that we've had some struggles with betting in first half, so I can't really get a good pulse on that. So really put it all together, and there's just too much unknown, not enough that I feel strongly enough about here for me to bet. So I'll pass on Wizards Bucks. Pistons Pacers. I know you're expecting a Pistons team total under here, but against a Pacers team that is redefining what fast-paced basketball means, I really can't do that tonight. Indiana's a 7.5-point favorite. The total is 245.5, which is just huge. So I do kind of lean towards the under. Indiana's locked up their group, so no real tournament motivation for them. Maybe it's a good night to slow things down, try to get everybody's maybe a little bit of rest, but I see no reason to expect that. So have to pass there, even though you guys know I love my Pistons team total unders. The San Antonio Spurs visit the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors are 9.5-point favorites, and makes total sense to me. The Spurs have lost 10 consecutive games and will probably lose another 10, really. Just not a good spot for them to win a basketball game till after Christmas. I have the Warriors as big favorites here, but it's a little bit of a tough schedule spot for them off the holiday. They've got a 2-day break after this game before a road trip against a Sacramento team they really need to beat. So I don't know what we're going to get out of Golden State here, although I do think they can beat the Sacramento team and by a lot. So I'll pass, although I lean towards Warriors, maybe alt spreads. And then the final game of the night is one where my model feels one way, but I feel a different way. The New Orleans Pelicans are 5-point underdogs in Los Angeles against the Clippers. This is a game, if the Pelicans win, they're in great shape to win their tournament group. Really important for them, whereas the Clippers are out. Now, my model is the Clippers a 6.5, almost 7-point favorites, which would be about a 2-point edge to the Clippers here. But I think about this matchup from a basketball perspective, and this is really tough. For the Clippers. Again, not only with the motivation advantage for New Orleans, but the Pelicans are built around attacking the rim. The Clippers do not have much rim protection. So if Zion and Valanciunas can get the ball past the perimeter, there should be a lot of opportunities for them. So as much as I really do want to bet the Pelicans money line, maybe Pelicans even -3 or 4, something goofy like that, it just, as I start to look at the numbers here, the Clippers are finally playing good basketball and may be able to find a way to beat New Orleans here. So gonna pass on those. But again, the 3 bets I did make will take over 212 in the Miami Heat Knicks game. Again, that's good to 213. The Chicago Bulls team total under 105.5, like that quite a bit. And then the Denver Nuggets -3 will be our final pick. Thanks again for watching. If you'd like to read this preview again, there's a written version today, as there is every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll be back Monday with another video as well. Best of luck, everybody, until then. And be sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment with anything else that you'd like to know here. What could we be doing better? Otherwise, again, best of luck. Have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday.